It's your proverbial boy, Jeffy. And first off today, I just wanted to give you all a little heads up. I'm gonna be in Denver, Colorado tomorrow, Thursday, September 5th, 2019. I'm going out there to do a free event. And at this event, I'm gonna be revealing a lot of my latest stuff. So it should be a pretty good time. I'm also doing boot camp and hot seat there if that interests you. And beyond that, I wanted to make y'all aware of a couple upcoming events this month, September. Next week, here in San Francisco, my good friends Tyler, Julian Blanc, Luke, and Maze, they're all coming through. We're putting on a 4-day event. Again, this is gonna be totally free to attend. So if you're in San Francisco, be sure to check that out. And last but not least, I'm gonna be heading to Paris, France, for the RSD European Summit on September 26th. So if you're gonna be in any of these cities this month, Denver, San Francisco, or Paris, be sure to hit the links in the description below so you can get on board and join us, because these are gonna be some truly special events that really do have the potential to elevate your entire life. So for today's video, I wanna dig a little bit into this generalized idea of negative social conditioning, right? You've heard us say this before. And in this video, I want to begin to examine what we're really talking about when you hear us use that phrase. Negative social conditioning, it's essentially a series of beliefs and processes that are programmed into us over the years as we grow up and as we live by society as a whole, right? And these beliefs and these programs are generally, they can be thought of as part of a system of control that is designed specifically to perpetuate the system itself. And one key linchpin of this system is fear. And anybody who's attempting to improve their level of social intelligence has likely found their growth in this area blocked and kind of stunted by various fears that you encounter, right? Fears of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of embarrassment, fear of loss of validation, etc., etc., etc. So today, with apologies to my esteemed colleague Ozzy, fear is sort of his thing, I want to take a closer look at fear. I want to take a closer look at the role it plays in our society, and also begin to look at how you can start to transcend it and see better results in your social life. So before we get into it here, I want to remind you, of course, to like and subscribe so we can spread this gospel of truth far and wide, because it is certainly sorely needed in these trying times. So again, hit the subscribe button down below. You'll be glad that you did. So to start off, let me posit this. The system of so-called low vibrational societal counter conditioning, that system is almost entirely based on fear. Whether you know it or not, well, again, whether it's at your conscious threshold of awareness or not, we fear for our literal survival at almost all times. And again, this fear is often below that threshold of awareness, but it's always there. And consequently, this gets passed down from generation to generation, and so our children also fear for their survival, and so on and so on. Now, in a system that we live in that promotes violence, that promotes uncertainty, in a system where confusion and self-centered beliefs are the norm, in a system where the scarcity model dictates that there's often not enough food, there's often not enough money, time, or energy to go around, in that system, your healthy survival is in fact a very, very real concern. And again, almost all the characteristics of society's system of control and repression are rooted in fear. So for example, one example, you have this illusion of control. We are conditioned to be afraid of expressing strong emotional energies. So subsequently what happens is, when we feel emotions, we try to control them by calling tensions into play. Now this repressed energy doesn't go away, it just bubbles under the surface, and it often explodes up to the surface later, on down the line, in harmful or ineffective ways. And this cycle often results in us gravitating towards addictive behaviors. Right? All addictive behaviors are some kind of attempt to control the self with either a substance or some sort of process. So drinking, taking drugs, gambling, internet addiction, workaholism, working late, these are all ways to avoid dealing with our own thoughts and feelings. And interestingly enough, these behaviors quickly expand into attempts to control what other people are thinking, feeling, and doing. So that's one, the illusion of control. Another one is being crisis-oriented, right? If you're crisis-oriented, every minor event or issue in your life is viewed as this major, potentially life-shattering turning point. And very, very often what happens is one crisis barely ends before the next takes hold and becomes your center of focus. So you're kind of just living from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. Interestingly enough, this actually feeds our illusion of control. Why? Well, because this crisis is actually something that we have created, right? Even when the situation's out of control, it's satisfying to us. Why? Because it's our situation and we actually made it. And if you look at this, and maybe look at yourself, I've noticed some people become very, very skilled at creating problems where there previously were none. So, like again, every minor thing, like getting to the airport, planning what to eat for dinner, making a simple phone call, everything is done in this state of panic. And we also see this on a large scale societal level as well. Like a crisis can often be good for the economy, right? Why? Because it keeps the public believing that the government is doing something to fix it. You know, something's being done to resolve this crisis. So crisis orientation. Another big one is dishonesty. And this is dishonesty not just with other people, but also with ourselves. Some other ones, abnormal thinking processes, denial, dependency, negativity, defensiveness, and rationalization. Every single one of these things is born out of fear. When we don't know our own boundaries, when we perceive the world as either for or against us, when we never have enough of anything, we can't help but be scared and fearful. And the only way that we can hope to survive is by controlling what others think, what they do, and what they say, and hope that doing so will minimize their effect on us. So what fear does is it makes us dependent on our addictions. In a system where the possibility of total annihilation is always present, addictive substances and addictive behaviors serve to block our awareness of this constant terror. So booze, cocaine, pizza, ice cream, Netflix, Reddit, etc., these all make us numb to our own reality. And then, of course, beyond that, we keep inventing these crises for ourselves, which guarantees that we always feel a threat to our survival. And these threats, of course, further strengthen our dependency on our addictions, on these various fixes that give us the illusion of being in control of our lives. So fear permeates the system. People in this system are always fearful because they can't exist without validation and approval from others. When you believe that you're not a legitimate human being in and of yourself, and you believe that your legitimacy is predicated on outside validation and approval, you're going to live in constant fear. You start to become very uneasy about trusting your own perceptions and feelings because there's always this chance that they will differ from those of the people that give you that legitimacy. And when they actually do differ in practice, it then feels like a psychological annihilation. Let that sink in for a moment. Fear is what holds the entire system together. The entire system could not survive without fear. But what you gotta understand is this system is an illusionary one. The system you grew up in, the system that you are currently living in and operating in, defines itself as reality, and it defines everything else as non-existent. It requires that you ignore your own reality and experience. It requires that you deny what you see and what you know, and it requires you to define the world according to the system's terms. And since this system is itself an illusory system, it defines everything according to its reality, which is illusion, and therefore says that everything is an illusion. So the system, quote unquote, is based on the illusion of control, the illusion of perfectionism, thinking processes that twist reality into these bizarre mental constructs, dishonesty, denial. It's based on all these things. The belief that this system is the only reality is itself an illusion that moves us to believe that there is actually no reality at all. But there actually is reality, however, and we can know it through our participation in our own clear process and our own clear experience. So this is a system of living process, right? The system of fear and control, it's a dead system. It's a dead system. So you have to trust your own experience, trust your own perceptions, and be in that system of your own living process, right? In modern times, we seem to kind of have moved away from our knowledge, our own knowledge. We've moved away from our own perceptions, and we discard our own perceptions in an attempt to fit in, right? To maintain our illusions, to live in an illusionary system, we have to shut off reality in as many ways as we possibly can. And that's why addictions of all kinds are essential to the survival of our society in its current form, right? Addictions keep us from seeing what we see. They keep us from knowing what we know. They enable us to fit into a system that is non-living and is in fact actively destructive. So the first step is just to admit your participation in this system, right? People say, all right, this sounds awful. How do I start to break out of it? Well, that's it. That's that first step. Admit that you are participating in this system that is harmful to you. Simple awareness. That's the first step. Don't add judgment. Don't add guilt to the awareness, because that's just perpetuating the cycle. That's perpetuating the system, right? Become aware of it. Then start to explore, start to release, and start to replace the manifestations of fear in our lives. Awareness is the first step. The second is discovering a means of acting on that awareness in a new way. Anyway, hope this has been helpful. This has been Jeffy reminding you to get out there and make the myths.